Y'all see that?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay, you see behind the stump that's
Oh,
behind.
yeah. Holy cow.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Do it again.
Watch
Let me,
that.
let me start it again. Y'all see that?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay, you see behind the stump that's
Oh,
behind.
yeah. Holy cow.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Do it again.
Watch that.
Let me start it again.
Okay, it's Mike. It's just Mike right now. I don't know where MK's at, but he knows about it. Hope he's okay. I know he's got health issues. This is from David House. 2 interviews from the Squash Masters themselves. What a great lead off the big one tomorrow as Michael Adams interviews the prestigious film analyst M.K. Davis. M.K. has been working on the Patty film for 4 years. He also, I don't know if that's 40 or 30, 40, maybe 40 years. He also did the Kennedy assassination and found the shooters in the grassy knoll. What a great company to be in. First me, then Scott Pace, now tomorrow, 1 p.m., MK Davis, Old Religion Dystopia. 2 is his YouTube channel, and please check out the interview. Okay, thank you, David Hollis. Anyways, it's one of those things. I don't know what's going on with MK. I hope he's okay. Let's find out. You okay, MK? You okay, MK? Times, doesn't it? I swear my dyslexia is just a pain in the butt. Hope he's okay. We might have to a little delay. So, then again, maybe it was, who knows? So here we are. MK Davis. So I don't know what's going on with MK. Maybe he's got the time wrong. Maybe I hardly believe that. I think there's something going on with him because we just talked, and he knows we're on. I mean, we communicated briefly. Meantime, what we can do is, I don't know if the audio is going to be any good. I don't know if we're going to have good audio. So those who are listening, let's see who's here. Who's even in the house? Christy. Audio sounds good? Good. Into the night, Bigfoot. Hey, paranormal talk radio. Cool. Thanks for joining. It's some reason MK's not with me. My old friend MK is not with me, but he seems to be on now. Maybe he's just delayed. He just got on. Facebook, so we'll see what goes there. Yeah, you know what? What we'll do, we're waiting for him. Fantastic little video that I hijacked from him. We'll watch this one.
It's not strange to get a raccoon on your game cam. There he is. But this little set of glowing eyes, it looks like glowing eyes. Watch him. There they are right there on that tree, see? They're over here, and they moved over the tree. And they're gone. What are they? I don't know. I thought maybe an internal reflection of the raccoon's eyes, but it doesn't make the same moves, and it makes a loop and comes back around and comes in on the other side of this tree right there. So there's one of them. There they are on the tree. And the raccoon isn't making those moves. Strange, I guess.
Yeah. I shine. Even MK's finding I shine just about everywhere. Let's see who else is in the house. Yeah. So audio's fine. Okay, that's great. Yeah. Well, I guess we could talk a little bit about MK stuff. He is on. Hey, Julio, how you doing? Julio's in the house. Let's see. So, anyways, yeah, so maybe this is good while he delays himself. First of all, this is a very interesting image. I hope we work on and once we look at Patty's hair and her ponytail. Not only that, Patty's not alone. He's here now. The man is in the house.
All right.
Turn up your volume, brother.
I'm trying to set this camera up. It doesn't clip to my monitor very well.
What's up,
I just kind of
Captain
have to
Hook?
rest it somewhere.
How's it going, my old friend?
I'm pretty good today. Having a pretty good day today.
Well, yeah. You're still kicking and alive. I'm glad you're still around, my friend.
I went on a walk this morning. I've been my medication is allowing me to do that. Before the meds, I couldn't hardly go across the yard. Not without a lot of angina, but with the meds, if I catch it right, they're time released. Yeah, take it at 7:30 or 8 in the morning, and by 10 it's peaking, which dilates my blood vessels, so I get more flow to my heart, and then I could do my exercise and my walk without a lot of trouble.
Right.
So I'm inherently bonded with my medications.
Hey, you're talking to guys who got MS since 55. I can relate to that one, that's for sure. Let's say hi once again to some of the folks. Sorry about the slow start, but maybe it's a good thing. Anyways, you missed out on some stuff.
It's in my bad. I thought it was going to be at 12:30. That's my fault.
I was gonna say. Well, it's okay. Might be my bad too. I have to admit that my dyslexia is really getting worse. So I've noticed with the typing and all that, I'm always hitting like I'll put instead of how I'll put who and not pay attention or you know what I mean. So, anyways, it could have been miss on my part, but I apologize. Anyways, it's been a long time. I'm going to tell you something, folks. MK is a very important person in my life, although I might not be in his life, but in my life, he is because 2017, when I was starting my quest to disprove the Patterson film and that Bigfoot was nothing but a hoax, he was one of the very first people in my life. Probably the first half a dozen people on the internet that I interacted with, and then we ended up doing probably 2 dozen videos or audios. This time around, we're a little more tech savvy. It's amazing how 5 or 6 years progress. You know, we did ours. It was on TalkShoe. Now we can do this, and we can show images and.
Oh yeah.
So I tell you what, while you're kind of settling yourself in here, maybe I'll play the video or the image that are short video that I hijacked from one of yours on Facebook. Of course, you get all the credit always. And just check this out. I find this a very fascinating. We got a couple of them, but let's look at this one real fast.
It's not strange to get a raccoon on your game cam. There he is. But this little set of glowing eyes, it looks like glowing eyes. Watch them. There they are right there on that tree, see? They're over here, and they move to over the tree. Then they're gone. What are they? I don't know. I thought maybe an internal reflection of the raccoon's eyes, but it doesn't make the same moves, and it makes a loop and comes back around and comes in on the other side of this tree right there. So there's one of them. There they are on the tree. And the raccoon isn't making those moves. Strange, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's kind of strange. What's going on in your neighborhood? Okay.
Since then, with more videos, I've been able to determine that it is an internal reflection, but it's mirror reversed.
It's mirror reverse.
So the raccoon goes this way, and the eyes go the opposite. Wherever way the raccoon goes, the eyes go this way. It's reversed.
Right.
You got several layers of glass there on that game cam. You got a piece of optical glass that makes it rainproof, and then it's got 2 reflecting layers, the front side and the back side, and then you got your lens, which has a multi-element, several of them glued together. And then you got your receptor, which is a very sensitive chip for night vision. So they all combine to make that odd. And it made some sense to me afterwards, because occasionally I get game cam photos and they say, "Could you find this Bigfoot in here? We see his eyes glowing, but we can't tell what it is."
Right, yeah.
But it's way up off the ground. Must be a Bigfoot. Turns out that the majority of them are internal reflections. So it's part of figuring things out, and it helps. And so somebody puts up game cam, be aware of that. That it can happen. That's not to say that real eyes can't appear. That is certainly possible. But if you see it move in in that fashion, in respect to the movement of the subject, there, it's probably its eyes. It looks like it's behind him, but
Well, thank you for your integrity. I appreciate that. When I was watching that, I was like, it seems to kind of be following him. But you're saying it's in
mirror reverse. That's not something we're used to looking at. Where it moves, we think it looks like it's moving independently, but
right.
if you don't watch carefully, it's the same exact move, but in reverse.
Well,
glowing eyes.
this is a very important a lesson to learn, and it's something to look into. So those of us who do film stuff and have, this experience, keep that in mind. It's
Yeah, it will. It's so that you won't spend a lot of valuable time if you know what that is. Which I've sat there and tried to brighten up the backgrounds, see what the eyes were, but they were nothing but eyes. So now I know. So if somebody sends me one, I remind them about this, that these game cams are capable of mirror reversed imaging. On the night shot, you won't see it in the day shots.
Right. Well, I have filmed those. I don't know. I have a very bizarre one. Someday I'll share with you guys, and maybe if MK's ever interested, I'll share with him. But during the day, actually, and the two were red.
Well, during the day makes a difference, and also color, which all night shots are, most of them are black and white.
Right.
They're just extremely sensitive. They make them that way so that they can reach out. You got a battery of LED, infrared LEDs.
Right. So how are you doing anyways? I mean, you were having a heck of a time last year, but it sounds like if you went on a walk, I mean, you're still kicking it. So
my problem is that I have what you call a lower anterior descending artery, LAD they call it. It's calcified.
It's called getting old, man.
It's full of crust,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the entire artery is calcified. So the surgeon told me it's it's ill advised to do surgery because they can't bypass anything.
Right.
So I'm going back to my regular heart doctor later this month, and I'm taking this drug called Renexa that dilates the blood vessels. It makes a difference. I'm able to get quite a bit more flow.
Right. Does it allow you to have you feel a lot more strength now, or?
Well, my heart itself is strong. It's the nourishment to the heart. The blood flow to the muscle itself. My heart pumps okay.
Right.
So it's
well, before we get any further, hold on a second.
He gave me a little rundown on. He showed me my video of my heart pumping.
Right.
There's 3 arteries there. 1, 2, 3. One on the left is calcified. One on the right is semi-calcified. The middle one is completely clear. And the middle one is trying to run these little small capillaries over to the other 2. The heart does that on its own if it can have enough time.
Right.
Collateral vessels, they call it. And that's what they're kind of hoping for, that I can hang around long enough that the blood flow will pick up that way. bypassing itself. So I'm all for that. So I would just love to let that happen.
I imagine so.
Yeah.
Uh, before we get going, folks, if you don't know about it, and I have left it, it's there on the bottom there, on the screen there, and then there, if you're looking at right now, it's Green Wave 2010 FB. That's his YouTube channel, and there's a lot of great videos from the. Gosh darn, this thing. How long has it been? A decade at least. How long have you had that thing?
Well, since 2010.
So that's 12 years, almost, well, at least 12 years.
Yeah, it started out as a football. That's a
I know.
Green Wave is a football team, and my son was working at a newspaper there in West Point, Mississippi, and so I'd started that. I would go up there and help him cover the games, and I would do film and stuff, take pictures, and I would place them on here. It was popular with the West Point bunch, but whenever he left and went somewhere else, I just decided I would just move my Bigfoot stuff over there. I kept the name, and now it has grown exponentially. I hadn't put a lot on there lately. I've been
No, you haven't.
using social media, and the reason why is because you get the people are much more varied. They're not people that you chose as friends or okayed as a friend, but they can be hostile at times.
You think so?
Well, I mean, it's a matter of what you want to put up with. I mean, I could stop it. I could disable comments or whatever. But I just got used to putting it up there and just a tight group. Well, maybe you can understand that I'm not in it for any money.
There's no money in this.
No, well, there
If you
is. But
think so, you're delusional.
It goes out more than it goes in.
Always. There's no
Yeah.
money in this. But there's a priceless knowledge that does. It's truth and money don't really mix that well, anyways, do they?
Well, I don't know. It's people view Bigfoot in a lot of ways, and to some people, it's a vehicle. It's something that they will carry them somewhere, uh, to fame and fortune or whatever they imagine, and so they ride it. But I think to me and a lot of other people, it's a means of understanding your world.
Well,
It's
yeah, absolutely. I honestly don't believe that money and the pursuit of the truth mix. Honestly, I have never seen it go well in the end. It always corrupts us, all of us. You know how this is, MK. If you get to a point, I've seen this so many times with other guys outside of the Bigfoot community because there's no money. There's maybe a few dozen people that make any kind of real money in the Bigfoot community. The rest are just, well, a lot of us, thanks to MK in particular, which I'm going to talk about, end up having encounters and sightings. And then that changes your whole life. And that is the reason why we are motivated. But when it comes to like the pursuit of the truth, I've just seen so many times where, people will say, example, YouTubers, right? They'll get 100,000 YouTubers, right? Or subscribers. They're getting the money and they're afraid to change their minds, to redirect when they discover that they're maybe going down the wrong path because of loss of revenue, right? It's the same thing with booksellers. You know how this is, MK. You'll write a book, you swore you had it nailed, and a decade later you realize that half of it was wrong, right?
What do you do about that?
You have integrity and correct it and say, hey, it was wrong, or you cower from the truth. Which a lot of people
There's a book out called "Everything You Know Is Wrong," but it might have been more important, more astutely named if it said "Everything I Know Is Wrong."
That's is that the case? The more the pursuit of the truth, the more you realize most of your foundation of what you thought was the truth or what you built your whole worldview on just becomes shattered. But I think that's part of the goal, right? Isn't that the real journey? Is the journey is to pursue the truth. Ultimately, ironically, is to realize how absolutely stupid you are.
Well, but what if you invested in writing a book? You wrote a book, and the title was "Apes in America." Well, it's popular as heck. People will love it. And believe that we have apes in America, and then you have this encounter that tells you something different.
Oh yeah.
What do you do about this book that you've written? You just let it continue on to sell.
Well, that's what a lot of people do. You know that, MK. That's what they do.
That may be, but that's why I haven't written a book.
Yeah, it's that's well, yeah. It takes. Well, how many years have you been doing this now? At least 3 decades, right?
Well, pretty close. Pretty close.
Okay. So I'm reading right now the classic from Max Flint and Otto Biner. It's called "Mankind and the Child of the Stars." Do you know that one? And
No.
if you don't, that's okay. Don't worry about it. But it's a classic from 1973 to four, and it talks about the connection between Bigfoot and UFOs and all that, and how man is a hybrid. And I'm reading this stuff, and now it's 50 years later, and there's so many things that are been. I'm like, what do I do? And I'm reading this live, and I'm just like, what the heck? Do I become brutal with this, or I stop it? You know what I mean? Because it's like, even this book that's been, if you don't know about it, it's right there. It doesn't matter. You can't see it. It doesn't matter because in the end of the day, things change so fast. Just in the past 5 years, just in the past, since I started doing this in 2017, and I would say I'm a rookie, but in a lot of ways, but in other ways I'm not because I'm kind of tenacious about whenever I am obsessive about. I've seen change so fast in 5 years. You have as well. People's understanding, people become. To me, it seems like even a lot of the researchers are starting to become more holistic in their approach. I'm starting to see people to stop playing in this game, this Hegelian dialectic game of flesh and blood or woo nonsense, and say, you know what, it's much bigger than any of this. I'm not going to belong to any of these camps. I'm seeing this in other guys. I'm seeing guys that are hardcore flesh blood. They're saying now, there's a lot more going on. I've seen an awful lot of things in the woods that don't add up. What do you think?
I think if you stay in this business very long, you're going to see that. You're going to see things that don't add up. And
is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a good thing, in my opinion.
If you're just looking for the facts, it's a good thing.
It's very Fordian, isn't it?
Yeah, if you have your mind made up, and it can be with anything that is flesh and blood, or that it's flesh and blood and an ape. An ape is simplistic. We know what an ape is. We see apes. We can find an ape. We can't find Bigfoot. That should tell you something.
Yeah, it should.
It could tell you, well, maybe it's not there. Maybe it's not there to find. Skeptics kind of go down that road, but not everybody is seeing things. The encounters are all too real, and I've seen enough just for me personally. So it's What am I? What are we looking at? We're looking at something that's hyper strange.
Well, you probably know about Charles Fort. I think
Oh yeah.
you introduced me to him years ago. Well, I finally got around to reading the book. Where the heck to go? And it truly is a Fortean experience, isn't it? That's what it comes down to. It's just whatever you think this is, it ain't, and more. And no,
Well, our mind goes to the simple explanation. I mean, it's natural. You don't have to work as hard, you know.
Mhm.
So we down here in the southeast, along the Mississippi, lower Mississippi Valley, people first, Europeans first came here. They found an environment not totally unlike the Amazon, more temperate, but the surroundings, it was a rainforest,
All right.
and they didn't know what to expect, and so they began to see things that were a little bit on the shocking side. Uh,
Right.
Bison, but if you've never seen a bison, never heard a bison described, and you go into the woods, they had bison up and down the Mississippi, almost to the coast.
Yep.
Uh, and do you find these people that are living very much like some of the uncontacted tribes today in the Amazon? They were their only rules to living was their own,
Right.
and you trying to contact them and establish uh, a land grab essentially by the queen or by the king of France, um, and you want to trade with them, and they essentially over time corrupted the tribes to the point where they were killing each other and selling each other as slaves,
Yep.
and so you got it. They're going down. You can't keep that up. But my point is that the oldest report of a Bigfoot in North America was in Natchez, Mississippi, 301 years ago this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I never learned something
So
new.
they saw them. They saw them and they wrote about them. So are they real? What did they see? What did they think they saw? To them, it was like an apparition. It was like a paranormal thing. High strangeness.
Like it is today.
Like it is today. They didn't think it was an ape.
Right.
They didn't think that, and they didn't think along simplistic lines that it was something they could exploit. Go out and kill and sell the hides. That's
Folks, anybody hears this, now you're going to see what it's like when me and MK have a conversation. And if there's nothing's changed in 5 years, MK, and all this stuff, and I appreciate it. I actually appreciate the candidness and the honesty because, and the in-depth conversation we have because, this story is much bigger than Patty's. The work you've done is vital in my book and many others, but it's only a part of a bigger story. And that's, I think, I would agree. Would you agree that's what we're dealing with at this point?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree that it's more broad, and that's part of the reason for having some tenacity because it's an important story.
Oh, absolutely.
If it was just, it's important to me individually, but it's also important to everyone else. Whatever view you have of it, if the facts are uncovered in an indisputable way, where you have the proper
Mhm.
facts, then it's going to be something very important. So you keep on keeping on. You try and try again to see if there's a breakthrough.
And that breakthrough leads you to every places completely which you would not have gone. It. You soon learned that the world is such a bigger picture. I mean, it's like it's. I mean, like I have filmed stuff. You have filmed clearly. To my book is a quote unquote Sasquatch in the same area as where Patty was filmed, and is important. Is an important piece of video in my book, but it is only a small portion of high strangeness that this world really is. We have somehow become so disconnected to a greater, more mystical, more spiritual, more quote unquote supernatural, multidimensional reality. It's turning out to be. It has nothing to do with belief or. Our biggest problem is our understanding of where are we in? What are we? What is place? We assume that we know, right? We read their religious texts and our history books, only to find errors and contradictions and revisions and redactions and to fit the official narrative in order to make it comfortable, maybe, if you will, collectively. Do you see that?
Yeah, I think that we just tend to drift toward simplistic things that are we think along animalistically, of just what's around us, that is in our sphere, but you know it's far more than that. And yeah, I think that in the sense that we consider that God at all, that we considered a creator. We, if you sit down and think about it, mathematically, if you do the math, we going backwards in time, you have to end up with two people. It's no way, and unless someone brought them here and dropped them off, you have to end up with two people, because the way man spreads out each time there's a birth, until he covers the earth. If you just reverse that process, you'll end up with two people, and they've done that with the gene. What do you call it? They diagram those genes, and they come up with man came out of Africa.
Sequencing? You talking about gene sequencing? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, they use the genetics, the family tree.
Okay.
And they have mapped the entire human genome. We weren't able to do that until that was accomplished, and then they know that there was two people in Africa that started the whole thing. Well, where did they come from? If you're an inquiring person, so you ultimately end up with a spiritual bent to it. You can't.
Well,
help.
yeah. It's some kind of intervention or some kind of manipulation, possibly. There's also the other thing about the cataclysmic narrative or theory, right? I'm sure you know about that.
Oh yeah, the cataclysm, and there's mention of cataclysms in all cultures. Some of them are very, very reminiscent of the others. The Sumerian flood, the Bible flood, very similar, similar enough to believe that they had a common source.
And they happen more often than we like to admit.
Well, wiping people out has happened, at least on local scales, many times in cataclysms, but they're talking about a worldwide cataclysm.
Like a shifting of the poles or something. Something
Right,
happens.
geomagnetic thing that caused the whole Earth to convulse, and only a few people survived it. So people explain it as best they can, but it's done as from a spiritual look that God was involved, and it's bigger than us. So we have to have fear of God, or it could happen again. So
Now, is that something you believe in, or is that something that?
well,
Is
it's
it
the
a
way,
rationalization that we do
right.
collectively?
It's the way that thinking people would take it, if you were lucky enough to be a survivor. Uh, so that you see other things too about the Earth and the world. If you look at some of these fantastic civilizations that have accomplished these fantastic things, and like Egypt, they still haven't figured out to this day, as many people as they've had studying on it, exactly how those pyramids were accomplished. So Egypt it was originally known as Kemet,
Uh-huh.
and it meant
How do you
black.
spell that? You remember how to spell that?
I think it's Khemet.
Okay.
Uh, and the Egypt is a Greek form. Greeks gave it that name. It means land of Ptah. Ptah was the Almighty God to the Egyptians. PTA,
Uh-huh.
PTAH. It and the last letters is PT, Egypt, land of Ptah. That's what
Uh-huh.
those acronyms for. But it was called the land of magic. Uh, all the rest of mankind saw Egypt as a place of magic. And in the Bible, they were before Pharaoh, Moses, trying to get them to let the Israelites go, and
True.
the magicians there in the king's court threw a staff down, and it became a snake. And Moses threw his down, and it ate that other snake. You see why they call it a land of magic.
Yes.
And also across the great pond over in Guatemala, Yucatan, were the Mayans, and Maya means magic, and they both built pyramids. And so you see how people viewed those accomplishments as being more than just what people did, that something else was involved. They call magic, the spiritual side, and so we when we see something that's so fantastic that we can't understand, it does seem magical.
Maybe it isn't too. Maybe it's a mix.
A Bigfoot that leaves 25 tracks in the open, and they suddenly stop.
Or they just leave one track, just one footprint,
One footprint.
Just
So
like a gift, or something. It's
well,
almost like they're baiting us. You ever feel that way?
doesn't that seem a little bit fantastical? It's not normal.
Very Fortean.
Yeah, it's not a how you say physics. You try to think of a physics explanation for it, and it's not one. So it's like something magical. There's something spiritual about it.
Right.
So,
And we use that term basically for multiple reasons. And that biggest reason is our lack of understanding of what actually is going on. So,
there is
right.
an explanation.
There always is,
But
right? It's just,
we don't know it. And if it's not within the boundaries of what we do know, so that's uncomfortable. That leaves you uncomfortable.
I
You
think
know,
a wise man, then, when it comes to his realization that that actually is a gift. I was talking to someone yesterday about that. And I said, when you come to the realization of how everything that you believe in is, well, it's wrong, and you're okay with that, and you're okay with uncertainty, that allows you an immense amount of freedom to ask questions that normally, while you're stuck in the official or the mainstream narratives, you're allowed to ask questions that normally people would not do because afraid of ridicule or being rejected, or just to shatter that paradigm, that illusion, that delusion that Fort talks about, right? You know what I mean? It's that illusion that we create for ourselves, right? And I think when you shatter that, it broadens you as a person, right? And your understanding and how you see the world. So it's a terribly difficult thing to go through. It's a painful thing, don't you think?
yeah. Well, there's a yearning to solve the problem.
To be right.
It develops. You don't want to be to have invested all this time and not get any return. You know, so that yearning is always there, and so you're looking for an angle on the problem, no new
Hmm.
way of looking at it. Uh, someone brings something new to the table, some new skill or new talent, and they turn bigfooting upside down for a while, and it turns right back. Usually, it's not doesn't last. Uh,
Right.
we're, we're right where we were a long time ago. I'm not where I was because I'm beyond does it exist, but most people, you know, it's, they're we're right where we were. We haven't reached the solution. That's acceptable. So that's where we're it's you hope for the best, but be prepared for that. Be prepared for not reaching the end point.
Yeah, it's the journey. That's what it comes back down to, is can you embrace the journey and not the destination? Not worry about the destination so much anymore, but embrace the journey wherever it takes.
Well, that's the spiritual part of it,
Yeah.
the journey. Uh, why does God put it in people to want to solve it? Well, why aren't we like an animal and just be happy with our immediate surroundings? Why do we think broader, and why do we think up and down the time scale, past, future? It's because it's built into us, and we yearn for it, and that's why you end up pushing the envelope.
Yeah, we do. I think it's about the uncertainty, how to live with it. I think a lot for me, I had to become a hermit. I really did. I had to, and not only that, I had to pull away from a lot of things. And I'm glad I didn't join any groups in particular. In the past, I pulled away from groups, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that not there's. I'm not talking about fellow travelers, and not to sound like a Freemason or not, but whatever that means. There is this reality that you will find fellow travelers, people who are willing to ask or penetrate, dismantle these precious paradigms that we develop, these walls that we create for ourselves in order to get through another day. That when you realize that you don't need any of that stuff to still get through another day, yeah, it makes life a lot more interesting, and you can end up finding companions and friends that you never would have thought. So, can I ask you a question? Can I, how is Don still around?
Yeah, yeah. Don's still around. He's up in Montana right now in the land of ice and snow, uh, sequestered in his cabin.
Well, I'm going to throw something at you first, and you just think about it. But I would like to have, and I don't know, he probably not. You are the one that would encourage him. This is going to happen. I would like the three of us to get together, me being the host, and you guys sharing your insights, because I could only imagine the gems that we could learn. You two bouncing off each other.
Yeah, well, Don doesn't have internet. Uh, all he could do was be call audio and
Well,
put a picture.
all you need is to, if you have a cell phone, you can call in to, he can join us. So,
Yeah,
you can be the maestro when it comes to the images. You're good at that. That's your forte. And I want you to just think about it. And
yeah. I
please,
had someone had suggested that before, and I had talked to him about it. He said he's willing to do it. It's
I think you know me well enough. If that I'll respect you.
Don is he's very old school. He's an adventurer par excellence. He's just been a lot of places. Done a lot. He doesn't sit still. He has that what do you call it, wanderlust. It just goes. If he sits still very long, he'll go. He'll get out in that below zero weather up there. If he sits very long, he's
Well,
89 years old.
well, that's what I'm saying. He's getting up in age. You're getting up in age. Heck, I'm younger than the rest of you. I'll probably pass away before you two, anyways.
I would.
But
I
I
would.
think it would be a really a valuable gift to humanity if you two guys got together and just shared your insights. I mean, my gosh, you've been to Death Valley, you've been over to North Cap. Where else have you guys been? You've been in, how many adventures have you guys shared?
Well, I had never counted them all, but we've been, we started with Bluff Creek, and we just kind of fanned out from there. We've been, I have been from coast to coast, up and down, border to border. It is a strange pursuit. Uh, I haven't been in the other countries. Don has. Don's been to Canada, Mexico. He's been to Australia, but I have kept it in the United States because I have family. Uh, I don't know how I pulled off what I pulled off. Really, uh, when I first got into it, you see that picture of the Patterson frame 350 behind me. Uh,
Uh, oh yeah,
that
yeah.
that
That's all.
was I was told, don't even try it. You can't do it. The film's no good. It is no quality to it. And due to my experience in astrophotography, I I knew better. So I just kept on plugging, and when I produced a let me see if I can find this picture. Hold on just a minute.
Do you want it? You wanted to?
I
That
don't
you.
I know how to share it.
Yeah, we'll do it. I will.
Let's see.
I will remove my sharing, and you could use that.
Let's see if I can find this one
Stop screen. So that's that. There's Patty with her boobies. I can't believe how detailed.
Right.
If they,
Right.
those guys
if
went
I had
way out of their way to make sure that Patty was has some boobies. That's all I got to say. So, if it's fake, of course it's not fake, but
okay.
but I went out of my way. Yes. And for me, as back then, in researching, you go for somebody that actually knows something, is willing to talk to you. And like I said, MK was one of the very first people who's willing to talk to me, and I started listening to him, and I was like, "Dang, maybe he's right." And I tell you, over the past 5 years, he's really strengthened his argument in my book, especially with the ponytail and with everything else going on. I mean, that's just, and that actually becomes when you finally get to that point, you're like, that's really kind of a superficial. It's very superficial, but very uniquely special, because why would anybody bother to put that on there? You know what I mean? If it was
right,
fake.
right. Can you see that?
We will add to screen. Okay.
Let me know when you can see it.
Well, I can see it. Can you guys see it? It's being shared right now.
Okay,
and I'll tell you what. You want me to? Let's just.
That's my first blow up of frame 350, and people were arguing with me that you could not enlarge it at all, really. And so I decided to do it. And you see the quality; it suffered very little. And then here's another conference I went to, same picture.
Dang, you imagine going on a date with that thing. Anyways.
Well, the arguments continued for a while. Hold on here just a minute. Let me find this other one. Let's see if I can find it.
Although I must say, if it's your mama, I guess you're going to be pretty safe in the world. I mean, it's not much.
It might be easier just for me to. Let me go back to the camera. For this other one. Let's see. Stop sharing. Here we go. I've got a printout of it. I'll just get it, show it. All the arguments ended when I made this one.
Ain't she a thing of beauty? My gosh.
You see how big it is? That's just the head. So how can you argue against that? You can't. You can argue all you want until someone does it, and then when they do it, all arguments have to be.
How massive do you think her head is?
How what?
How big is her head?
Oh, actual size?
You can guess
it's pretty good size, is all I know. She's much larger than us. She's extremely heavy too.
We figure that she's about what, 600-700 pounds.
She's about 6'7", but her girth is tremendous.
So she's 6'7" in height.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that varies with. She's got a kind of a stoop posture,
right?
And then she's got on broken ground. It's hard to get a precise measurement. But she's heavy, very, very heavy. And when I say heavy, it's exponential. A cubic inch of her would weigh about double what a cubic inch of me and you would weigh. It's got twice as much muscle fiber, twice as much the vascular system. All of that. It's so if she looks like she weighs 600 or 700 pounds, you can double that. and be pretty close.
That's brings new meaning to Big Mama.
Well, you don't want her to step on you.
No, or sit on you, or
Uh,
give you a hug, or
right. It's why you
squeeze
can't
your head with a
be friends with a Bigfoot. At least not get physical, because they will absolutely kill you just trying to love you. You can't, they can't, uh, joke around or whatever. If they stepped on your foot, they'd crush it. And of course, her Mister Patty is probably even more so, much bigger.
right. What does your wife think about you? You spend so much time with another woman.
Well, there's enough time, but it's not all spent on the Patterson subject. I spend only a minimal amount of time on it nowadays. That was in the early days, and it really wasn't. It was in response to people who did not know what they were talking about, telling me what I could and couldn't do, when I did know what I was talking about. And so I had to demonstrate it. And so that's kind of the way it is, you know. If I had found a zipper on Patty, I was okay with that. Let's clear it up and see if there's a zipper. But there were no zippers. not at all.
No. Do you got a better image than that to share? Mine's pretty blurry from you. I've heard the backside of her showing off her her hair.
I've got lots of different images. That's for sure. That some of them had some hand motion blurring.
I'll stop sharing here.
You can try to get some of that out. The film was taken at slow shutter speed, and with the movement of the person's hands, you get a lot of images on there that are just blur. But in between all that blur, these fantastic, clear, beautiful pictures. Let me see here. I'll just go.
While you're looking for that,
okay.
The internal question, one of the many questions out there, is why are they hiding these beings from us, the truth of it? Now, I've heard all stuff about the logging industry and all that stuff. They're reasonable. But if we are maybe dabbling now into the quantum physics and supernatural and spiritual side of things, maybe could that be even a more, well, I feel it'd be a much stronger reason to hide it. When it comes to the oligarchs, the rulers of this world, if they were to know, if they were to admit that there might be beings in some ways equal, superior, or different, that would contradict their official paradigms or narratives over the past thousands of years, right? I mean, it's not just that it would crush religion or science. I think it would actually, the bigger threat would be, in some kind, psychologically, the rulers themselves. They're the ones that, I'm not talking about, the plutocracy, the oligarchs, the people that actually run, the plantation owners that run this place. Does that make sense?
Well, the Patterson film is kind of a little different. That area was considered to be sacred by 3 different Indian tribes.
Yes, I remember this.
And the reason why, they said that there used to be, before modern man was there was a different type of human that lived there, and they went back to the stars through a hole in the sky from off of 2 peaks in that area. One is Medicine Peak, and the other is Chimney Rock. and they train shamans on those two peaks to this day. The logging companies wanted at those logs, and so they devised this road plan that they suddenly needed a shortcut to the coast.
Right.
So they call it the Gasquet to Orleans Road. Gasquet's on the coast. Orleans is in the interior, and that would take them right through that sacred land with all that timber. And they call that the Go Road. It's still there to this day, but it's not usable but a couple of months out of the year, because it's up high in altitude and it starts to snow. Snow stays till past June, and then it continues on, starts again real early before the summer's even finished. And during that time, there's rock slides and all kinds of stuff. They have to repair the road every year. There'll be a boulder half as big as a house in the middle of the road. It wasn't a feasible travel road. It was built, and that was an excuse so that they could use it to get logs out.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's the Indians resisted to the point of making human chains, and they fought it tooth and nail. And it was no time before these road construction crews got in there before they encountered Bigfoot. Bigfoot would come around their camps at night, and they had their wives with them, some of the workers, in an RV.
Right.
And the Bigfoot would come in where they parked the RVs and bang on the sides and stuff like that. And they tried to convince them that it was all a joke. They got a couple of guys, Ray Wallace thing, if you've ever read about him and his cousins, they all strapped on these wooden shoes and made tracks and mixed them up. They mixed them up with the real tracks and said, then they confessed, so to speak, and said, it was me. I did that. I made all those tracks.
Right.
But eventually the workers actually saw the Bigfoot. And so they got their RVs, quit their job, and left.
Wisened up a little bit there.
Yeah. They realized what was going on. It took them a long time to build that road, but they got it built, and they got some timber out of there too as well. I've got some video of them pulling timber out of there. It's greed, and that's what the Eastern tribes believed created a Wendigo. You ever heard of a Wendigo?
Yes, and you're not supposed to say it.
Yeah, I said it
Twice now. 3 times the charm.
Well, I'm not a greedy person, so I don't have anything to worry about.
There you go.
If you are a greedy person, you do, according to them, you can actually become a Wendigo. A Wendigo is created by greed.
Right.
And that.
Now, are we talking when you pass to the other side that some of you're stuck somewhere in a dimension or plane where
I'm not sure how it happens, but it's that strange,
Well, the thing is, MK, for at least I'm going to be how I see it. I'll be honest about it. The connections with shamanism, indigenous tribes and shamanism, medicine men, with these things we call Sasquatch and Bigfoot and all that, it's so profound. I don't know why there's some reason we don't want to go there. Why don't we want to go there? Do you know?
Well, it's a lot easier and more comfortable to say it's an indigenous ape. But to say it's a Wendigo, That's very uncomfortable, because we don't understand it, and we don't control it. And so it requires, if you don't want to say Wendigo, it requires you to be not greedy. It's kind of a control thing.
You got to be having fun saying this over and over again. You know what I'm saying? It's the rumor out there. It's one of those you can't. Beware. Don't say the name, right? So
Yeah. Well, it's like this. The the British, when they established their colony there, Jamestown, started out with real good relations there with the local people, and it was during the middle of a drought, and they went out of their way to provide what little food they had for them to get them through that winter. And before long, the British were land grabbing, and the Indians had to turn and fight them, and they called the British Wendigos, that they had turned to Wendigos, that they had become greedy, and they were salivating, like the evil monster. So that it's part physical, part spiritual,
of course, yeah.
and that's what they're referring to. And so so it goes with the Bluff Creek, that they had the designs on those logs and created a need for that road in order to get at them. So you see that they had, in effect, according to that description, become one of these unmentionables collectively.
Which makes me
As
think
far
that
as
maybe what's to say there's not that possibility.
Well, I don't say that because I see greed as a driving force behind so much evil. That I think that you can make a case for that. They say that if it gets bad enough, it will manifest in a physical creature. That's when it gets scary. That's what the
okay. Let's just assume for a moment, and whether one agrees with it or not, that say reincarnation or whatever that entails, and there's some truth to it.
Well, that's something we don't know. It's some things you put it on your list. I'm an observer from the moment I was born in this world to the moment I go.
That's right.
And you're not going to figure out all things, but you make sure that you pay attention. And sometimes some little key piece of information will come your way and will unlock a whole door. You can open up a whole door.
Yeah.
And that's a great feeling. You ever heard of a quaking tent?
I don't know if I have or not, but you tell me. Maybe I know. But
You're
it's just
talking about shamanism. When the French came to this part of the country, in the lower Mississippi Valley, they had criticisms for the shamans because they looked like they were backwards healers. But after a while, they began to notice that almost everyone who went in to see the shaman with anything wrong eventually was cured.
I need to go see a shaman.
Sometimes it was grievous things wrong, and they made a note of that in their journals. The shamans had a way of doing it. It was part physical, part spiritual.
Right.
And they didn't understand the spiritual part. And so I was talking about the quaking tent, and this was rather kind of across the whole country. That's quaking tent thing was practiced, that the shaman would get in there and they would construct this tent that was in the shape of a column, and they put a fire in it, and the shaman would sit outside and he'd beat a drum,
Huh.
or he would take a drug.
Right.
Either one, or he didn't have to have the drug, but the drug helped. What he was looking for is to go into a vision, have a vision. But he beat at a certain rhythm, and the tent would begin to quake,
Right.
and then it would begin to sway. And these British people, the British commandant, was watching. He'd been invited to watch, and the tent began to come all the way one side, all the way out the other side, all the way, and then the shaman lifted off the ground, and the guy jumped up and ran out the door. He couldn't watch it anymore. And they had no explanation for it whatsoever, but he wrote it down in his journal. That's what he witnessed. So what was at play there?
Well, for me, it reminds me of what happens with trees in the forest and things that are supposedly associated with Bigfoot. Trees swaying back and forth, right?
Yeah.
The noise is, it reminds me of something that you have reports of people claiming they've witnessed, and I'm not saying they have, because I certainly have heard tree breaks and quote unquote tree knocks, which is very interesting too, because tree knocks. So well, I'm gonna be honest, flat out honest with you, Kate, that my two encounters, there were two encounters. One was in my backyard, and the other one was in a cemetery. Both of them got to 15 feet in front of me, and both of them went through trees, not around trees. They went through trees. So, and I know I'm not alone with this, and I know there's other Indian legends, traditions that they say the same thing. And we think about trees, and we think about tree knocks, and I'm just wondering, because I've been studying, because I honestly think you have to have a holistic approach to all this. And I've been studying out-of-body experiences of people that astral project. I'm not recommending you do that. You guys do what you want to do. I don't want to do it. But I want to understand what's going on. And they bring up this whole idea about when the spirit comes out, separates from the body. Of course, it's not full. People talk about silver cord, but many are saying that's not even right. It's more like a spider's web or something like that. But regardless of that, when they come out, there's like an explosion, like a bat, like something you might hear in tree knocks. Like
a pop,
like a big blob explosion or pop. Yeah, that, and then okay, so, and I'm not saying this so in correlation doesn't mean causation, all this old nonsense. Okay, but you know what? We're just going with this. What if these entities, these beings, these interdimensional beings somehow use the life force out of the tree itself? I mean, it was just an amazing being. Some say when being possibly sentient in some form. They use that life force, the energy, to manifest, to come out. Or they spend most of their time inside the tree. Now, I know it sounds crazy, but if you think about what the Native Americans have been saying, and others, many old traditions about these, these stick people, these stick men, these tree devils, they blah, 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 tree apes. What if that is part of the equation?
Well, you're not the only one to think that or have reason to think that.
I know. That's what I'm bringing. By the way, I have thought of long before your Russian friend, but now let's talk about your acquaintance, this guy that. So, because there's another person from another part of the world that's saying the same thing.
Well, just a minute. I'm going to show you something. And I may have shown you this before.
So yeah, but maybe it's leading up to this, but I mean, you had a video, and when you did it was about a year ago, when I saw that, I said, finally, I know I'm not crazy because somebody else is saying it. Well, I might be crazy, but it's collective madness because other people are seeing the same thing, witnessing the same thing, and arguing the same thing, in which the argument was, I think it was a Russian or a Chinese, or it was Japanese or somebody from the East that was saying, oh yeah, they come out of the trees. Think the trees, think the trees. So now I know that some people might, why you keep talking? Because, well, it's the more and more I study this, more and more I witness, and more I talk to others, it seems to be part of the scenario, whether we like it or not. So
let me see if I can find this. It relates to that.
Right. So while we're talking, so there's connection. You see, if possibly, because one of the things, MK, maybe you can straighten me out in this. I have never heard of one individual that's actually seen a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot tree knock. Have you?
No, never.
Never. Yet there's these bangs we call tree knocks. And there's another thing too that I want to bring up with everyone to start thinking about. I don't know anyone that's ever seen one of our beloved our Sasquatch or Bigfoot. And believe me, I'm not saying they're not real because I've had my encounters, I've had my sightings. All right. Shockingly enough, it happened. And I do believe part of the ingredient for why it happened is me running into MK Davis, and it led me to introducing me to other people that eventually made it happen in my profound ignorance. But do you know anybody that's ever seen Sasquatch, Bigfoot? And has anybody actually seen any entity that's been creating these tree structures, X's, leans, teepees? Has anybody seen any entity? I mean, outside of a human being doing one for a bonfire or something like that, outside of a human being, any other entity, has anybody ever seen that? Do you know of?
I can tell you what I've seen. And if you look in some of the old books that hunting parties built structures like that out west, I can show you pictures of it, that they would just build them for a one night stay. And all it did was just block some wind off of them. And then they just walk away from them.
Right,
but they'd be made out of grass.
That could be part of it. But then why am I witnessing it myself and many others throughout the whole country? New tree structures, tree leans. And I'm talking about not something out in the west. I'm talking in my town, in the middle of my town.
What I'm talking about is a percentage of the ones that are out there. They can last for 100 years, 200 years in that environment. So somebody sees them or walk upon them. It could be an old hunting structure that somebody made, but that's not to say that they all are. It's just to say that some of them might be.
I mean, there's reports of.
Can I share something right quick?
You're the boss. You're the captain. It's open for you.
Right.
You know, there's reports, say, in the West Coast, right on the coast, right on the beach, of these huge teepee structures being built overnight. No one sees them. There's no footprints. There's no human. There's no evidence of humans doing it. Now, what happens later is humans add to it. They might leave some of their garbage, or that has happened, but no one's actually. I mean, we're talking the size of tree trunks that it would take a small platoon of men to actually just haul over there to that spot and then drive it into the ground. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Have you seen this image here?
I have. And when I saw that video, I said, you know what? Good. I'm not the only person that's witnessing.
Yeah. This was left on our windshield under the wiper blade.
Right. Tell us the story.
It was a young man sitting there, and I was in there with the Japanese gentleman that I was kind of guiding them down to Bluff Creek, and we stopped at the restaurant there in Willow Creek. And this young gentleman was over there. He didn't say anything or introduce himself, but he did borrow a pen from the waitress, and he started drawing on this napkin. And he left ahead of us, and when we got out to our car, this was under the wiper blade without explanation. But looking at it, it seems to describe what you're talking about, that Bigfoot goes into the tree. And it's got a question mark because he didn't come out the other side.
Yeah.
He should have come out the other side.
Or more importantly, that tree should have been, and the bare minimum, should have had some kind of visible damage. In other words, the size of a patty beast, if it were to even, say, run into a tree, I mean, that tree would be shaken, or something would happen. Something's going to get hurt. Her or that tree.
Maybe it makes a pop.
A bang.
The words there with it are Russian. I didn't know what they were, but Igor Bortsev told me what they were, and it means it is here.
Right. And I just didn't. Here's another thing. I did an interview with a guy. He goes by he calls a YouTube channel called Orb Whisperer. He's from Australia. And somehow he's figured out a way to interact with these things. And he argued, I didn't even know he was going to bring this up, that they come in and out of the trees. He said that's where they live, in the trees. And he has endless videos of him filming these things. And not dust particles and not, all the different things that possibly could be explainable. Actually, things that are actually moving at his command, flying in the air that look like orbs. And I know it sounds bizarre. It's bizarre. It does sound about bizarre to you hear about this, but maybe it's another connection. Why do people see orbs, lights at the same time they're having these encounters?
Well, what is a tree alive or dead?
He didn't say that.
No, is a tree just
you asking me? It's 100% alive.
Yeah, they're alive. Then they have something in the tree that sustains its life. And even though it's moving in slow motion, it moves. It grows. Its limbs change orientation. They move about. If you watched it in some kind of a compressed manner. So it is a living thing. So,
and it's much like us.
It has a spirit. We have a spirit in our body. When the spirit leaves the body's no good without it. So it's
well, one of the things I'm going to tell you, MK, what I observed in my own personal, and I know it's anecdotal, but it's my own personal experiences. The two encounters and the few of the sightings I've had where I saw them, and when they came out of the trees, eventually that tree died.
Oh, so it was some kind of interference. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Some good information.
And so, what could possibly be happening is not only they're drawing out the life force or essence of the tree, right? Or a lot of people are reporting that they're reading it's of radiation at certain levels, right? Electromagnetic frequency of radiation, some of that form. And then there's this, of course, we have our own science and our own experimentation with radiation and what it does to the human body. Could it also be doing something similar to a tree itself? Localized. Now, it doesn't have to be a whole forest, a tree. Localized. If something happens, the interaction you just described that you just showed me, and that or us in that drawing, that somehow it ends up damaging, killing the tree. causing whatever havoc it does cause, that it does equivalent to the human body. Here's the thing: trees are like what 70-80% water. Human beings are pretty much close to that, aren't they?
Yeah,
So
trees, and that water goes up and down. It's cyclical with the seasons. It'll go down, and that's what makes the leaves turn and fall, and it goes back up in the spring to nurse new leaves. So all that's a conduit. It's hot, what pumps the water. What makes it do that? It's cohesion, they say, but it's not totally. That's why I say that the Native Americans look at everything from the standpoint of that it has a spirit to it. A living thing does. Animals have spirits. It's not to say that they were spirits beyond earthly, but they have. And I've watched with my game cams. The animals have. I can recognize animals over, and I've photographed them over and over, and they have different personalities and different. They behave differently. They have some of the emotions. I watched a fox. He drank out of rainwater out of this dish that I had dog food in, and then he reached his paw and turned it over and spilled it so that the raccoons couldn't have any water. You see it had a spirit about it. It had a basic raw emotion that was in that animal that was beyond just what it needed. It drank what it needed, but it thought ahead, and it don't like raccoons. Raccoon don't like him, and he just spills it, and then he puts his scent right there by the pan. He sprays. Goes on his way. The raccoons come, they can't hardly stand it. That goes on hidden from our eyes until modern times we have these little recorders that we can see that. It's kind of what I can see. That's the case, and I think Native Americans were tuned to that. They lived immersed in that.
absolutely.
Yeah. So they saw everything as a spiritual thing, spirit, and all people containing spirits, and they recognized that some people had evil spirits about. That's why this Wendigo concept was real to them, and no one knows how real it may actually be. That a spirit like that could develop and manifest something physical. No one knows.
Well, what do you mean? No one knows.
Well, they don't know if that's a real thing or not. If you saw a Wendigo, would you know that it used to be a person, or would you know that it used to be it was manifested by a collective group of people that had become greedy? Like they said the British had.
Right. Okay.
I
see what you're saying.
One thing for sure, they knew that greed could eventually end up in death, and they recognized that.
Or premature death, that's for sure.
Right. Well, it's you can't measure or quantify an emotion. So technically, emotions don't exist according to science. You cannot measure them, observe them, or quantify them. But they cause war.
Hey, MK, you carry on with that thought. I'm listening to you. You guys, just carry the thought. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I have to go to the bathroom real fast, but I'm listening.
Yeah,
to
okay.
you.
Okay, sure.
You know what happens? You get to be 55. I brought this up before. Yeah, it's you know what it's like, right?
Oh yeah, I've been 55.
Yeah. That's for sure. Yeah. Okay. I'll be right back.
All right.
Yeah. You just keep on going. I'm listening.
Yeah. Well, it they cause wars, jealousy, envy, uh, all of those things that you can't measure or quantify or observe, but you can observe their effects, and they cause terrible suffering on the earth. Uh, people, people with egos and things like that, they go against each other with all their might, driven by something that you can't prove even exists. And if a person gets angry and 10 minutes later he's over it, where did his anger go? It's all something to think about. Uh, and that's why I've hold on just a minute. That was Don right there. I probably could have just brought him on, couldn't I? Oh well, next time. Well, I'll just wait till you come back, Maestro.
Don't give up on me, MK. I'm here. So.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I had given up.
Thanks. You know how
that was Monroe that called.
you know what it's called? It's called getting old and that damn prostate thing. Plus, I got MS, and so MS of the signal is you have a problem with the signal. I have at least. And so what happens when you gotta go? You gotta go. You're going to pee your pants. Okay, where are we at with all this? Yeah,
I can't hang around too much longer. I've got to.
Well, it's all right. And this is probably a good point to actually even kind of close shop for today. Now, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as I have, MK, because there's more to this conversation. And what I think is very special about, I although I didn't necessarily appreciate it at the time as much as I do now, is that we just did recordings. We did like 24 recordings, and we just talked about whatever came up. And it's always how it turned out. And there's so much good. I think, the things I've learned in the past have a decade, and just the things that you have learned since our conversations. I think we have a lot to share with people. And I also want to strongly encourage you to talk to Donna about doing at least a show together, the two of you. Allow me, or it doesn't have to be me. It could be anyone else if you think there's someone that's better. But to have this the show, to have this conversation, because there's something that is true, and it's something that I feel is being lost in our this new world that we're creating, this virtual world, and that is that listening to people who have experience, who may be called elders for many reasons, not just because of their age, but experience, and just having these kind of conversations. Not trying to sell anything to you, not trying to push anything to, not to try to perform for you. There was times when people would have around the fireplace, or it was around the fire, where they would listen to older people who have experiences and just sit together and just listen. And that was the best way for many of us. Listen, we are hardwired to learn this way, whether we want to accept it or not. It just from, I guess, an evolutionary stance, if you will, or just, culturally, socially, so many reasons to have these kind of conversations. It's not about being the next best big thing. It's just about having the truth to be shared to us, from our wisdom to be shared to with us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you probably recognize too that when two or more people get together and dialogue, you open dialogue, that it's not the total sum of two or three people. It's the amount of good stuff is exponential. It seems to get a boost. The memories are better. The materials better. It's always good. This is a great format for that. People, like you said, this is the fireplace.
This is our fireplace, and I want this to be something that we do again. Excuse me, and please don't be a stranger to me and us, because we just started this conversation. This is one of the things I learned too. MK, people say, "Oh, an hour is about the right amount of time." That's only about the right amount of time for us old farts to go take a pee. That's about it. But the truth of the matter is, the second hour always where the gems start flowing. It takes time to warm up. It takes time to see where we're going with our conversation, where we're heading, right? You could script it out, but it's not natural. This is much more natural. And just imagine, anybody's going to listen to this, and it's going to recognize that there were some hidden gems that were talked about that you don't hear normally on most shows, only because it's all formatted instead of having this more organic flow we're doing right now. So I sincerely want you to come back as soon as possible, because A, I enjoy my time with you.
Well, I do too.
B, I have an immense amount of respect for you. And C, I do believe that there's things that can be beneficial for others. And for, you're part of the reason why I'm here. It's true. So as far as my experience, my understanding, my growing, my who I am today. So,
You gotta stick to it.
You do. You got it. I can't keep up with you guys' comments, but yeah, you got to stick to it. But I think it is wasted, valuable energy and resource, knowledge, wisdom, if you don't share it. And I think in a way we can figure out how to do it so we don't have to worry about people, what they think about us, what camp you need to belong to, or if there's, people are going to ever invite you back again. I think we can pull it off, MK. I think we can do something that's cathartic for both of us, at least for me. And that may be very self-centered now. I know I am being self-centered, but on top of that, I think it would be very cathartic and valuable for other people. I just remember, okay, I'm going to shut up after this. I remember as a young boy, this is back in the day, family reunions, when people would come, the relatives or somebody come, for dinner or whatever, just to visit for an hour and just sit back and just listen to the conversation of the elders, of the people, the adults in my life. And yeah, maybe a lot of it was superficial. Still, it was something that is soothing to the soul. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Even if you don't learn anything necessarily, it's soothing to the soul to listen to older parts like ourselves and say, hey, listen, this is what we know. This is what we've learned. This is some of the stuff that we're interested in. And anyways, thank you, brother. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for allowing me to spend a couple hours with you. And all the rest of you, thank you for showing up. And the ones who are here again, don't forget, let me post this up before you take off the banner so that so people can remember. So, and also it will be in the information box, and that is the davisreport.wordpress.com, right? If I got that right. And the green wave, and I did it. Did I do that wrong? I did it. Shoot. I did it all the time. How did it? It's my deck slide. How did that happen? We're going to correct this right now. Edit this thing. I've been. Yeah, it's a curse. I'm telling you, MK. Yeah. People don't ever get multiple sclerosis. It just really does wreak havoc in your life. And one of the things is, you know, your dyslexia gets a little worse. There we go. So, probably the beginning of the show I had this whole time wrong. But anyways, is fortunately I showed it at the actual YouTube channel earlier. But anyways, is Greenwave 2010 FB YouTube channel. So anyways, it'll be on the information box. So. God, it's going to be a curse for the rest of my life. I don't think it's going to get any better, MK. I think it's going to get worse.
Well, I mean, it's you're talking to somebody that knows and understands.
So, all right, you have a great day, MK. Everyone else have a great day, and I'll reach out to you in a day or two. You think about what I've asked of you and Don, and I think it would be a real blessing for everybody. I honestly do.
All right. I sure will. We'll see you later then. Have a great day.
You bet, brother.
As well as all your listeners.
All right, folks. We'll see you later. Thank you for joining us.